really making the nexus between wildfire and climate, and that listen, our emissions for the last 20 years, all the regulations were completely wiped away during these crises. So you want to make it,
it's the best. We love it. HAPS does the thing too.
so what's the massive overwhelming population?
Yeah. All right.
It's
nice about me.
Scheiße. It's not charged. That's okay. It's okay. That's okay. I can read.
When you're ready to go, give us a cue for the film, and we're going to clap.
If you can take your seats, we would like to start.
There's a sense of urgency that we all must do something.
We shouldn't feel defeated.
We can do it. Perpetual planet means protecting nature as if our lives depend on it. We have to keep hope alive.
How can we use our skills to solve these global problems?
I love for my research to have an impact in the life of people.
It takes a collective effort from all of us to inspire, to educate.
Putting all the knowledge together.
Más gente involucrada, más gente.
We are not going to stop until we get the job done.
It was just the beginning. Fantastic.
Good evening. Welcome to the Explorers Club. I'm Alex Moore. I'm the chair of Climate Week and director here. I'm here only to introduce the first speaker. But before I do that, I'd like to thank our lead sponsor, Rolex, and our sponsors, XPRIZE, Sceye, and all the other sponsors that have made this week possible. This week is also possible only thanks to our outstanding staff, and you will hear me thank all of them on Friday again, but particularly Kevin Murphy, Brittany Barabazat, Luis Muga in the back, Jake Sheriff also in the back, also Felix Freeland and Margaret Ferris just outside of there. All fantastic staff members without whom we could not make it here tonight. This is... And Will Roseman, the executive director. This is the third night of Climate Week, officially fourth night since Sunday, and probably the highlight, as usually it is, because everybody gets a little tired of the UN program and migrates to the Explorers Club, where we have much more fun things to talk about. My role here is just to introduce the first speaker, introducer, our trustee and member of the board of directors, Mikkel Vestergaard Frandsen. He's a philanthropic entrepreneur and humanitarian. He's known for his groundbreaking contributions at the intersection of climate and health. He's the founder and CEO of Sceye, which you will hear more about tonight, which is providing absolutely groundbreaking technology to improve climate monitoring and also wildfire monitoring and expanding internet access in key areas of disasters. He's the founder of public health companies like LifeStraw and Vestergaard, which both have made absolutely groundbreaking advancements in halving the cases of malaria worldwide among children and almost eradicating disease, the first disease to be eradicated without a vaccine, the guinea worm disease, thanks to LifeStraw. Absolutely outstanding leader in this world, and particularly showing the world that you can do business and do good at the same time. Here's Mikkel.
Okay, thank you, Alex. That was an incredible introduction. Where's the camera for the online? Because my wife and son is watching. Okay, excellent. Let me just say a caveat there, because yes, my company did invent the synthetic fiber that could control release of insecticide, and as you make a bed net out of that, it kills the insect on impact. And as a result, after distributing more than 1 billion nets, we contributed to more than a 50% reduction in the global death from malaria. But that was not the work of one company. I just want to make sure that's understood. The US government was incredibly generous, as was other governments. And as for the near eradication of guinea worm, we were simply following the incredible leadership of Jimmy Carter, who passed away earlier this year. To most of you, the Explorers Club needs no introduction, but some of you may be here for the first time. And so let me just start by saying that this is the home of Peary, Amundsen, Leakey, and Jane Goodall, Sylvia Earle, Buzz Aldrin. So all field scientists and venturers and change makers on a mission. And I think at its heart, that's what we're about. So the Explorers Club is this incredible community of people that inspire and inspire generations. And as a result, we're probably representing the largest gathering of field scientists in the world. And so it's therefore fitting that this is a platform on which we discuss one of mankind's greatest challenges, if not the greatest challenge, and more importantly, what to do about it, and the role of wildfire, as climate change contributes to wildfire and wildfire contributes to climate change. Most importantly, tonight we'll be talking about what we can do about it. And I think, you know, my heart is pumping, I'm dripping sweat because I just ran from another meeting at a much larger building where I think that conversation is missing. What can be done about it? And so it's very fitting and inspiring to be here to talk about that, the action. So I'm honored. Now here's the official piece. So I'm honored to be kicking off XPRIZE, the Future of Wildfire Tech session tonight, where XPRIZE Wildfire finalists will speak to you all about the role of AI, sensors, drones, high-altitude platform systems, and satellites in transforming how wildfires are detected, managed, and fought, and hopefully in the future, prevented. That was a mouthful. Most of you have probably heard of some of this, AI and drones and satellites, but the mentioning of high-altitude platform systems was also in there, and that's actually what I'd like to just talk a little bit about before we move on. I see the photo of myself. It's actually from this podium a year ago. Life has been hard. I'll probably get to that in a bit. But before I talk too much about high-altitude platform systems, I actually want to just share a video with you guys. Because in August last year, we flew the Explorers Club flag to the stratosphere. Because we were the first to go to the stratosphere and show that it was possible to be station keeping below orbital altitude. And came back and handed over the flag at the Explorers Club annual dinner. And that was our return.
MMC go for hangar egress and launch.
MMC is go for hangar egress and launch.
RMC controls.
RMC controls is go.
RMC comms.
Comms is go.
RMC nav.
Nav is go.
I am go. Alright, MMC is go. RMC is go. Weather is go. Payload is go. Chief of Mission Ops. Launch systems. Safety. Crew chief.
August 16th, 2024. Sceye completed the world's first diurnal flight in the stratosphere while maintaining altitude and maintaining position over their area of operation, thereby demonstrating that a geostationary platform is possible in the upper layers of the Earth's atmosphere, below orbital altitude.
Crew chief, you are cleared at egress and launch. And set all valves to 100% max open, auto-controlling.
Carrying the Explorers Club flag, this breakthrough creates a new vantage point to understand our planet and provide real-time input on how to better care for it. During the Explorers Club flag expedition, Sceye performed the first ever methane monitoring from the stratosphere, identifying specific emitters, their rate of emission, all in real time. This stratospheric platform holds vast potential for science and humanity. With high-precision infrared cameras, we can detect a fire the moment it ignites, and before it spirals out of control. With 24/7 eyes over the horizon, we can take the search out of search and rescue for people at sea. And to support exploration, from the stratosphere, our radar can scan 1,000 feet underground, helping humankind improve our understanding of ourselves. We are grateful to the Explorers Club community for continuing to inspire us, and we're honored to return the flag number 210.
Yeah, thank you very much for that applause. The reason why it's so important to be station keeping in the stratosphere is that by flying through both day and night till the sun comes up the next morning to recharge our batteries, and we were still at the same GPS coordinate, and we were still at the same altitude, we showed that it is possible to be station keeping below orbital altitude. And that really unlocks a host of possibilities to see what nobody else can see and connect with capacities that nobody else can, and do so in real time. So unlike drones, we stay up, and unlike low Earth orbit satellites, we stay over the same area while they're passing by with minutes from horizon to horizon. And the only other thing that can do that is a geostationary satellite. But they're at 36,000 kilometers altitude to be geosynchronous with the planet, and that's 1,800 times further away from the surface of the planet that we are. So this very unique vantage point above air traffic, above the jet stream, where we just parked for a very long time, offers us to see constantly in real time tens of thousands of square miles. And so this is the beginning of an entirely new layer of infrastructure. And the historic analogy that I like to use is that this is the third time that this has happened. First was in 1903 at Kitty Hawk. Second was 1957 with Sputnik. And right now there's a race on for the third, a race to the stratosphere. And a race that we so far are heading, and I think that's also why the Explorers Club acknowledged that with retiring of our flag. We keep flying and testing. This is from Monday this week. We had our latest launch, and that was actually, for a large part, dedicated to the ability to see wildfire from the stratosphere, seeing it as it ignites, and showing that, and this was a controlled burn, and showing that we can see the moment something ignites, both in terms of smoke signals, heat, but also optically. And that's entirely new to have those various layers. But as we are building and testing and continue to build and test, the end point as we move towards operations is before fire season to light our map and area so we know where to pre-position, both on ground and in the air. And when fire season is on, to identify it the moment something ignites, and then help responders both with connectivity and with eyes on it. And lastly, and we're showing that on a flight later this year in November with Coast Guard, offer high precision PNT to know and guide airborne assets and provide flight corridors for unrelated airborne assets. So with that, I'll wrap up, and I'd like to introduce Andrea, Santy, Program Director for XPRIZE Wildfire. Andrea brings over 20 years of experience managing worldwide competitions focused on addressing global challenges. Previously, she's held a long career with the Smithsonian Institution, the World Wildlife Foundation, and she's co-founder of the Conservation Leadership Community of Practices. Welcome, Andrea, to the stage, and thank you all for coming here. I hope we're going to have a wonderful night and enjoy it, and this is going to be awesome.
Thank you, Mikkel. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight during this busy climate week. I want to thank the Explorers Club for hosting us tonight. Mikkel, thank you for kicking us off with such a great video. It's so exciting to see the work that you guys are doing, and I think it's just such a perfect way to start this session. We want to be able to imagine what's possible, and through Sceye, we were able to see some of that. We're gathered at the historic Explorers Club, a place that's long been home to the bold and the curious, and those who believe that discovery can change the course of humanity. And so it's fitting, like you said, to be talking about wildfire, one of our greatest challenges. And we're joined by leaders, experts, and innovators, XPRIZE Wildfire teams, and those who are working to change the trajectory. Around the world, wildfires are burning hotter, they're burning more area, and they're becoming more destructive. While extreme wildfires are only a small percentage of all the wildfires, they have an oversized impact on the damage. They're impacting areas from the Amazon to the Arctic, and they're reshaping our forests. They're threatening biodiversity, and they're putting lives at risk. Here in the US, we've seen fires have an impact that we never thought we'd see before. This year alone, extreme wildfires reached upwards of $80 billion. When we started this a few years ago, that number was 350. I joined XPRIZE in 2023, and before then, I had been in areas impacted by wildfires, areas where you don't expect them, like the Amazon. But in 2023, I never thought that the fires that we would see over the next 3 years were going to be transforming the landscape in the way that they have. In 2023, we all know that Canada had some of the most severe fires in their history. I like this chart because it really shows the impact of how extreme wildfires are becoming. We're in New York. This was the Sceye that a lot of you saw. Later that year, Lahaina was impacted by a devastating wildfire. It was a fire that started and then rekindled. And it burned a significant area. I was able to be with the former US fire administrator to walk through the area about a month after, and it was really hard to just comprehend the level of destruction. Earlier this year, as our all staff was coming into LA, I saw fires out the side of my window. Out the back of our hotel, we could see fires on the hillside. And it was the start of the Los Angeles fires. The next day, we were able to go out with Orange County Fire Authority to meet with firefighters who had been on the ground for 36 hours trying to fight the fires. And as far as I could see, there were neighborhoods, schools, communities, homes, businesses that had been destroyed. We know that there's an urgent need to be able to address destructive wildfires, and that's really where XPRIZE is doubling down. We want to be able to address fires before they become destructive. But fire itself is not the enemy. For millennia, Indigenous communities have harnessed natural beneficial fires as a tool for renewal, for balance, and for life. The crisis we face today is not fire itself, but our inability to manage it in a modified human environment, coupled with 100 years of suppression and in the face of a changing climate. And that's where XPRIZE comes in. We have a global 4-year, $11 million competition that's challenging the world's best innovators to reinvent how we detect, respond, and ultimately live alongside wildfire. Across 2 complementary tracks, XPRIZE is galvanizing a community of innovators who are going to transform how fires are fought with our end goal of ending destructive wildfires. We have a short video to let you guys hear a little bit more about the competition. I'm going to cue the video.
Imagine a world where technology could stop this and this from ever happening again. Wildfires are on the rise. And while wildfire is essential to the health of some ecosystems, extreme and destructive wildfires, when fires get out of control, can result in the loss of lives, ecosystems, and entire communities that cost billions of dollars to rebuild. Wildfire frequency has increased by 400% in the western United States alone in the last 50 years. Experts predict that the likelihood of extreme, catastrophic fires could grow a further 33% globally by 2050. Today, wildfires burn 3.5 million square kilometers every year, an area the size of India and more than 5 times the size of Texas. And as climate change worsens, wildfires will continue burning more frequently, intensely, and across larger areas, impacting even colder regions like the Arctic. Now, more than ever, we must revolutionize how we fight destructive wildfires. Human ingenuity can transform this life-saving field and equip fire managers with tools to match the demand of increasingly destructive wildfires. That's why XPRIZE, a global leader in accelerating breakthrough technologies through incentivized competitions, has launched XPRIZE Wildfire, an $11 million 4-year competition to innovate firefighting solutions that will end destructive wildfires. Innovations in technology can alleviate the challenges of fire management by enabling faster response time, improving the accuracy and precision of detection, enabling access to areas with challenging terrain, enhancing capabilities in extreme fire conditions, and connecting siloed approaches and groups. Along 2 complementary tracks, competing teams will design radically novel solutions to overcome some of the most significant barriers to how we currently fight fires. Solutions developed for the space-based wildfire detection and intelligence track will rapidly and accurately detect all fires across a vast and remote area and transmit data to ground stations. Solutions developed for the autonomous wildfire response track will rapidly and autonomously detect and suppress a destructive, high-risk fire in an environmentally challenging area with greater speed, accuracy, and precision than current best-in-class solutions. Employing technologies such as artificial intelligence, robotics, autonomous systems, and satellites, competing teams will individually and jointly drive innovation to end destructive wildfires for good. XPRIZE Wildfire will transform wildfire management and ensure the health and safety of firefighters, society, and ecosystems alike, creating a future where we sustainably and safely coexist with fire. Find out how you can get involved with the XPRIZE Wildfire competition by heading to xprize.org/wildfire.
Thank you. Not all problems can be solved with competition, but there are certain problems that really need to incentivize a wide audience. And that is the approach that XPRIZE does, and that's why we're doubling down on wildfire. We bring together competitors from around the world, and a key part of XPRIZE is rigorous testing, our global panel of judges that bring their expertise, and being able to really see the efficacy of the winning technologies. We're looking for solutions that work, not just paper exercises. So in just the 2 years since we launched this competition, these are our 2 tracks, we've been able to see amazing breakthroughs. We've gone through a process of being able to have over 300 teams submit ideas. These were then narrowed down by our selection committee, and we're seeing solutions, Mikkel, you talked about it, Alex too, sensors, cameras, being able to detect from space, air, and ground, the integration of autonomous systems that detect and respond and suppress fire without any human intervention. This is really powerful technology, and it's going to change the way that fires are fought, keep firefighters safe, and ensure that we have the ability to find fires when they're at their very smallest. I know today we have some members of our teams in the audience, and so I'd just like to take a moment to have anybody from an XPRIZE Wildfire team stand up so that we can recognize you. I know there's a couple more of you guys in there. So tonight's about more than just a conversation about fire. It's about resilience and collaboration and reimagining what's possible if we refuse to accept the status quo. We're at a real turning point in this competition. This year coming up, we're conducting finals testing. It's going to be taking place across both of the tracks. And it's really an opportunity for us to see what the teams are able to do. But it's also the start of being able to look at how we integrate these solutions into agencies like Orange County Fire Service, into fire safe councils, into communities. And so we really want to make sure that this is trusted and that the systems are fit for purpose. And that's going to require additional support, additional partnerships, and additional collaborations. If you're here today, we hope that you will consider being one of those. So thank you all for joining us. I'm really excited. You guys are going to hear from an absolutely fantastic group of speakers. And we have the bold and ever curious Bill Weir from CNN, who's going to lead us in today's conversation. Thanks.
It's so great to be with you folks. So Hurricane Katrina was my first sort of big national disaster I covered as a cub reporter at ABC. And then you noticed in the last 5 years, as evidenced by that chart, more and more wildfires entering into our coverage plans. I covered Paradise, California, when at the time that was the big one historically. I was in Lahaina while that was still smoldering, LA, and most recently the Palisades, Altadena fires while they were raging. And the thing that sticks with me are the characters I meet along the way, because who realize when most folks, when the coverage ends, is when the smoke clears and the sun comes out, wow, your problems have just begun. Your life is upended. Everything you know is gone. I met a woman in Paradise named Heidi. She sticks with me. Works at the local school there. Went to work that day. Came back. Everything she owned was gone. She said, I was going through a divorce. I said, wow, that seems like insult to injury. She said, no, that's really the best time to get a divorce, is when everything you have is burned to ash. But only about a third of the population of Paradise decided to stay and rebuild. And she was one of them. And the people who wanted to be there really want to be there. They looked around, they realized their church and their job and their friends and the community is worth rising from the ashes. And Heidi has a monthly potluck with the fellow members of her evacuation zone. It's like the 428 Club or whatever that number is. And she says, I wish we had done this before the fire that changed our lives. I wish we'd had monthly meetings to think about our escape plans and just talk about worst cases in a Boy Scout way, be prepared. And so those people are in my mind as I watch the excitement of this and the idea that you could alleviate that kind of life-changing stress with early warning systems that we haven't even considered. I mean, Sceye blows my mind. Mikkel, that's the first time I saw that. That is unbelievable. So it'll be interesting to learn more about that and all the other ideas that are percolating out there. Let me bring up first of three of our guests today. This gentleman serves as Director of National Government Solutions at Esri, which is one of the leading outfits in the world when it comes to geographic information systems. He has pioneered initiatives that leverage that GIS tech to enhance public safety, disaster response, including strategic initiatives, public safety, national security, humanitarian, all comes with this. His expertise is further recognized through his advisory roles on prestigious boards, FEMA, National Advisory Council, XPRIZE Wildfire Advisory Board, Masters of Science in Cartography and GIS from the University of Wisconsin-Madison, go Badgers, and has contributed to numerous publications, the application of GIS. Geography is destiny, especially in the age of climate change. So Ryan Lanclos, give him a warm welcome.
Well, hi, good evening, everyone. It's good to be up here, and quite humbling, actually, to be here at the Explorers Club in this podium. As I got to talk with some of the members earlier, how many explorers have stood here in this room at this podium. And as a geographer and what I'm going to talk about today and this idea of XPRIZE, it's all about seeing our world differently and how many explorers left our planet and saw the world differently for the first time and changed everything about the way that we think in one moment. And so I hope today to share a bit of a geographer's perspective. That's really the crux of what I do as an explorer, is to seek to understand our world. And so what I'd like to just maybe take you away from New York for a bit, because I feel like you've probably been all over this city over the last couple of days and in and out of meetings and sitting in packed rooms like this. So what we want to do is start and just give you a sense of the geography of wildfire, why it's important to think about this beyond the simple stories, but at a global scale. And then we're going to get down to the local level and ultimately talk a little bit about technology and how technology is enabling communities to better understand, as Bill said, to get that early warning, but more importantly, just early warning to classify it, to decide what to do in that moment when it's so critical to act or to let it go. And those are hard decisions that have to be made. And so I really feel that geography is a place that can start. It's about understanding where things happen, what happens, and how they happen together. So let's get started. If you think about the US, and Andrea just mentioned this earlier, right now there's fires burning in the US. I looked this morning from the National Interagency Fire Center. There's 32 large fires burning in the US today. They've burned today about 436,000 acres. That's about 500 central parks burned just today alone. So it's always occurring, right? It's on the landscape. In 2024, if you kind of extrapolate that back out around the world from the World Resources Institute, there's about 13.5 million hectares of fire that burn every year. You saw this if anybody attended the earlier session around Bolivia and some of the act that we saw there happening. This is consistently on the landscape. And so a lot of this fire in some cases is very beneficial. It helps with crop rotations. It helps with managing landscape. But it's those moments when it goes from that into a community that we really want to understand and make a difference around. So this little visual is talking about global landscape. This is a beautiful visualization of where people in the blue intersect the wildfires and hotspots that are occurring globally. This is just a snapshot from July of 2025 alone. So imagine this playing out each and every day around the world in communities all around us. And it's not just the fire itself that we're thinking about. In this week of climate change, this is about understanding impacts and cascading impacts of these hazards on communities and people. It really comes down to how it affects our families, those individuals that have to make tough choices at time about whether to rebuild or not, or how do I move forward in this kind of new world that we live in. And so if you think about how it intersects people beyond the fire lines, one great example of this is just smoke and the deadly impact of smoke from wildfires. The beautiful visualization is one way to put it that Andrea showed earlier of New York City last year. The US had the worst air quality in the world as a result of fires burning in Canada. It wasn't directly the fire, but it was impacting communities here directly. And so if you look at a study recently in Nature, they're expecting by the year 2050, 71,000 more deaths per year as a result of smoke alone from wildfire. That's 1.9 million cumulative deaths between 2026 and 2055 if we continue on the same trend that we're at today. So it's more than just the fire front, it's all these cascading impacts. You could easily say that the work this week is all about kind of understanding how we intervene. How do we change the status quo? How do we make a difference? And obviously the work that I do here at Esri and the work around maps and GIS is about trying to understand these phenomena, to get a better handle on them, to use language of maps and geography to communicate these impacts to a lot of people. And it's clear that our collective actions are having a lot of impact on communities just like fire. And so when we think about these impacts and the collective actions we have to take as a community, it led us to start to think about, well, how does this really connect back to Climate Week? Well, if you think about temperature change, that's an easy metric that we talk about a lot in the news. It's everywhere about changing climate conditions and the heat and different forecasts over certain periods of time. This visualization is just 1 month of changing and ebbing flow of a living planet that is heating and cooling in different areas around the globe. But what that's doing is more than just heating and cooling, right? It's changing the landscape. It's changing the fuels that feed fire. It's creating drier areas. It's creating growth in other areas that then certainly dry out. Southern California is a great example of this, where we had a lot of wet weather over the 17, 18 months prior to what we saw happen in LA. It created a lot of vegetation that then went into a drying period that dried that vegetation and fed fuel into the environment that was able to catch fire. And so these temperatures are one way that we can connect back to a cycle, right? It's about this idea that this interconnected global and living ecosystem, our planet, isn't controlled by one single variable. And as we make changes to temperature, it feeds back into the carbon cycle. These fires get bigger. We saw proof of that from Andrea's chart. And what that does is release more carbon. In fact, the recent example that we saw from NASA says, 60% carbon emission increase from 2001 to 2023, directly from fires. So as it contributes back, that cycle continues, right? It creates more warming temperature, feeds the system back around, and more fires. And so it's important to think about this away from New York, around this big concept of climate and how it connects back to the challenge that we're trying to address as a collective team to better find the way to forecast and understand where fires are starting, how to anticipate that as quickly as possible, to classify it and to take action. So as I mentioned, I'm a geographer, and I'm all about exploring the world and understanding this phenomenon together. And so, I was thinking about this room again, because it's, again, a kind of sort of very humbling experience of some of the passion as a child that, watching these explorers travel. And I was thinking about the collection here as I go online and I looked, geography is at the core of everything that happens here at the Explorers Club. It's a personal opinion, right? But if you think about it, it really is the science of our world. It's about integrating data and information about everything. It's the people, it's the built environment, it's the natural landscapes, and it's understanding how they interact together and finding patterns that may be hidden so we can make better plans for communities, to make better plans to intervene in the wildfire cycle that continues on and on. It's understanding climate change is affecting a lot of different things in generalities. But the language of geography that you probably are more familiar with are maps. Right? How many of you love maps? I can't see a lot of you, but I hope a lot of hands are going up right now because I remember what got me, and somebody said, when did you become a geographer? And I said, I was 8 years old and I was on a road trip with my grandparents in an RV, and I was in the back with the atlas exploring the road ahead, and I was trying to find what was coming up and just trying to understand what was in front of me. And maps have always been that language that helped explorers find what's in front of them, to chart a new path, to make a difference. This facility houses about 3,500 maps. An amazing collection. There's a globe downstairs that's the Kon-Tiki globe. It's the globe and the map of the world that helped plan the Kon-Tiki adventure from Peru to Polynesia to open up trade routes. The map in the top right is a beautiful map from 1907 that is about exploration routes, right? This was Ponce de Leon. It was Henry Hudson. It was Lewis and Clark, and looking at explorers moving across the landscape and charting their way forward. So maps really are a language that help us define wildfire. It helps people connect to it. It helps people convey the meaning of all these decisions. And so how do we ensure that these maps are current and timely and updated in real time? And that's really the challenge of XPRIZE in this wildfire, why these competitors are trying to understand how to detect, how to keep the maps current, and how then to get it to first responders as quick as possible so they have it at their disposal to make the decisions they have to make in a critical moment ahead. So the technology, a bit of why Esri is partnering this and what we're excited about is the technology, right? This is about how we make these maps evolve. The language of geography and the maps themselves are changing, right? If you traveled here on the subway, you might have used a map that helped you navigate the streets and found out what time to get on the train and which exit to take. You might try to find a new restaurant, right? You're using maps and geography every day to navigate your life. And so GIS, the tools we do, is a way to extract all of the features around us, the buildings that we're in, the city that we're in, the streets, the landscape, the trees, the weather, the climate, and put those into context of the maps. And so we're spending a lot of time with XPRIZE to try to then refine how that continues to evolve. And so I want to show you a practical example of what that means for wildfire and to put, again, context outside of New York City. This map is a project that we worked on with the U.S. Fire Administration. This is the national agency that's coordinating fire across the U.S. And they had a project which was helping understand the exposure to fire risk in communities. So how many would you in the room here think that you live in a fire-prone community? Okay, that's a lot of hands. I appreciate that. I hope a few more will go up after this presentation because I think we're going to find surprising information here, right? This is why maps are so important. What we're looking at here is a map that shows exposure to fire risk in LA County. So I just went to the source. We're going to kind of zoom into Palisades for a minute as an example. I think everybody's got that reference point in their mind. In LA County, there's approximately 16,000 structures that are in the wildland area. That's where most people think about wildland fires. It's the forested area, the thing away that I maybe go and hike and explore and recreate in where fires start. But what's interesting is if you look, it's not a hard line between the wildland and those communities, right? As communities expand, as we look to grow, and as economics drive this expansion, what we do is we build closer into that wildland. And so we get this urban interface, this area between the built environment and the wildland. It's called the WUI, the Wildland Urban Interface. That area puts people at risk each and every day across the country and around the world. And what that means is that it's when the fire starts in the wildland, for example, with severe winds from climate-driven change and so forth, it casts embers straight ahead. And in severe weather with 80-mile-an-hour winds, those embers can travel miles. And what do? They nest in homes, they nest in structures, they nest in things that start fires elsewhere. That's called the ember zone. And so in the case of LA County, it's not just the 16,000 structures that are in the wildland, it's the 1.6 million structures that are in the ember zone that are at risk of a potential fire start should something happen. Now, if we kind of go down to an area that many maybe think about is Santa Monica. Who wants to go to the beach this week after being in New York? Yeah, it's a beautiful area. Most of us would think Santa Monica, you would think the beach. Well, there's 50,000 structures in Santa Monica City that are within the ember zone at risk of fire. So I would guarantee no matter where you live in the world, there's a risk of wildland fire. And again, this is about the fire front, not even the cascading impacts of smoke and everything else that contributes to that. So if we look at the Palisades area, for an example, this map starts to take into account what I just described. So if we zoom in, you'll start to see now we've got the wildland and this ember zone. If you look at where the fire started with the hotspots and replay that in real time, you see it started right at the interface. It grew down through the wind-driven flames, turned into an urban conflagration, structure to structure into those, and destroyed tens of thousands of structures. So that's an example of an interface. So if you then take ourselves away from the Palisades and just go back to the US for a minute, how many other urban interface areas are at risk for Paradise, Lahaina, Boulder, and so on? There are 107 million structures in the embercast zone across the United States. So this is why maps tell a story. They take us on a journey. They help us understand phenomenon and can help us chart a course forward. And if we end at the why this prize is so important, why this competition and the teams is so important coming back up. If you read the news and you're watching it, you're hearing every day about fires that are happening in Portugal and Spain and Greece. But think about that map that I just showed in the US. In this case, these fires are burning in July, again, right near Portugal. In the area, you see the smoke cascading into other parts of Europe. But imagine now, in your mind, you're thinking about exploring that area and understanding it. It's not just where the fire is, it's what's near it. Have they done defensible safes? Have they managed that area? Have we classified it as good or bad fire? So this example is driven by satellite observation from NASA. But it's not good enough, frankly, right? It needs to be better. And that's the purpose of this competition, is to find ways to sense things more quickly, at a higher resolution that can detect it at a small scale of start so that we can intervene as quickly as possible in the right places at the right time. Geography matters in wildland fire in this case. And so what does it look like as a kind of an example of coming together to close out today on this? This map combines a lot of sensor technology. So we just saw a dot pop on a map. That map is a hotspot of a fire. When I click, I now have a camera feed. This is from Alert California. These are AI-driven cameras across the landscape that are looking and monitoring for smoke. AI detects a smoke. I can click on the image. I get a little bit of a scene, exactly where that fire is. And now I want to know more about it. Tell me the geography of the fire. How many people are nearby? What's the landscape? What's the current fire conditions and the weather conditions? And more importantly that, now imagine that we can ask the question of how far would that fire potentially spread and who would it impact over a certain period of time? As you're going to hear later from our other colleagues on the panel, this is the moment of decision making that we're trying to expedite. And so when I run this model and it clicks back, you see this fire behavior model return. And if this fire were to continue over 8 hours, it would potentially burn into the structures you see on the map. So this is the future of where we're trying to get with technology. This is an example, but the purpose of this competition is to continue to do this at a global scale, not just at a local scale for a small area with a camera network that is phenomenal and doing tremendous things, as you're going to hear from our chief from Orange County talk about later. But how do we replicate multi-sensor technology with geography and understanding to model these behaviors? So with that, I'll turn it back to Bill in the studio. Oh, I had to say that, Bill. Somebody said I had to give my toss out, and I needed like a back to Bill in the studio for a minute. Thank you all, I appreciate it. So, yeah, thanks, Bill. Yeah, thanks.
You're hired. You're my new favorite geographer, Ryan. That was so fascinating. I really, really want to have a beer with you. Our next guest serves as the division chief at the Orange County Fire Authority out in California, overseeing fire services multiple cities, leading the all-hazard incident management program, over 29 years of experience, various service roles and specialties, incident commander, planned section chief, Lots of disasters from the Dixie and Woolsey fires, which actually took my college apartment in Malibu. There, a Surfside building collapse, he worked, multiple hurricanes. He has engaged in international collaboration, testified before legislative committees, and contributed to several technology councils, and was recently a unified incident commander for that airport fire in Orange County, if you saw that on the news. Please welcome Chief Kevin Fetterman. Chief?
Good evening. Certainly, I'm very thankful to be here. I'd like to thank the XPRIZE community for the invitation. I'd like to thank Fire Chief Brian Fennessey for his leadership and innovation, pushing the Orange County Fire Authority to the next level. And certainly, I'm humbled to be at this podium with all those that have come before. Tonight, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the incident commander's perspective, the boots on the ground, if you will. And then I'm going to attempt, well, normally I would say the 3 Bs. Be brief, be brilliant, and be gone. Unfortunately for you, I'm not going to be any of those things tonight. So I think as you all know, and as you're seeing and as you feel and see and smell, fires are becoming more challenging, more dangerous, more frequent, and the severity is increasing. Catastrophic wildfire is not just a California problem. It's not just a Western US problem. I think what you saw from Ryan's presentation is this is a global problem. Well, how do you address global problems, right? Collaboration, partnerships, relationships. Some of the things that we see in the fire environment, and as you'll see from the slide, is the fuels are drier, and that the picture up there, you'll see the fuels for the last 5 years. And that black horizontal line is critical fuel moisture. So as you see, almost every one of the last 5 years is below critical fuel moisture. You'll see that there's a fire behavior fuels advisory. Those are red flags for us to know that the fuels, the environment, are going to be more dangerous than they have ever been before. That is a picture of the airport fire, happened in September of last year. We're just about a year away from that. So we are preparing Southern California, the Western US, getting ready for the next siege of fires. Emerging technologies, much like massive use of aerial assets in aviation and the deployment of ground resources, for us, emerging technologies are a force multiplier. So we're utilizing the AI cameras. There's 1,078 of them in California. We get text messages and emails when there's an alert. Our agency uses those as a real-time indicator of an incident. So when we get an alert, an AI alert for a fire, we launch somewhere in the neighborhood of 46 different resources. That includes fixed-wing aircraft, rotary-wing helicopters, drones, intelligence aircraft, fire engines, chief officers, you name it, and we're launching it. And the whole reason is we're trying to get ahead of that exponential growth curve. The beauty of XPRIZE is that it brings and accelerates that innovation. It gives us the tools to be more effective, more efficient, faster, and hopefully keeping those fires at a very, very small number. One thing we know for sure is fires are increasing in severity and frequency. So this leads us to the importance of scaling that innovation. So what kind of information are we looking at? We're looking at fuel moistures. We're looking at soil moistures. We're looking at land's agreement. Where are our apparatus at? Where are our aircraft at? We are using common operational pictures. We are innovating probably more so now than ever before. Certainly the use of the AI camera systems. And like I said, that the situation as it becomes more dire, it requires us as fire agencies, as leaders, hopefully it implores you to engage with us to affect these catastrophic wildfires. So in September of 2024, we had a scenario in the Southern California basin. This was just a few months before Palisades and Eaton. We had 3 major wildfires going on at the same time. The Bridge Fire in Los Angeles, the Line Fire in San Bernardino, and then the Airport Fire in Orange County, which I was fortunate to be the Unified Incident Commander. So we're engaging on technologies, we're engaging with our stakeholders and our partners, and we're using that fire modeling to identify whose land is it, whose resources are responding, deploying, and we're leaning in and innovating more than, like I said, ever before to try to use new technologies. Really excited about the HAPS and what that brings to the fire environment. We used to talk about detection. Now we're talking about detection strategies, terrestrial cameras, AI, HAPS, and then certainly satellite identification and modeling. The panacea for the fire agencies is to have that real-time fire modeling, to watch the growth of fires and watch them geospatially progress. Because as an incident commander, that allows me to identify areas where I deploy resources. These questions have been around for more than 50 years. We've been trying to identify where's the fire at, where is it going, and then where do I deploy my resources. So as you can tell with all the innovation, and XPRIZE is a huge part in this, is starting to answer those questions for us and starting to allow us to deploy those resources and engage our relationships more effectively than ever before. The local agencies, the state agencies, the federal agencies are working shoulder to shoulder, patch to patch, in a unified command setting to manage these incidents, to lead, to effectively deploy resources, and to try to mitigate these catastrophic wildfires. At the back of our command vehicles, we're looking at common operational pictures. We're bringing in satellite information, cameras. I think we're rapidly getting to a point where that we have so much information and the need for information reconciliation. And that's where I really think as we move forward, one of those breakthroughs that we're going to see, I think the XPRIZE is bringing forward, is that AI use to reconcile all that information and to tell me information that I need to know when I need to know it, and how it relates to previous fire history, previous fires, suppression activity, where the air tankers are dropping, where the helicopters are dropping, bring all that information in, and ultimately, so we can do the best that we can for the community and hopefully mitigate some of these catastrophic wildfires. So with that, that's all I have for you tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity. And along with Ryan, I gotta say back to you, Bill.
Thank you, Chief. Our next speaker is the co-founder and CEO of Little Place Labs, a company specializing in space analytics. Diverse background, technology and energy. Previous roles at startups including Urban Us Capital, Swell Energy, InnoWatts. He holds an executive MBA from the University of Oxford, Bachelor of Engineering from McMaster University, Slacker. He's also a certified financial risk manager, roots in Hong Kong and Toronto, currently based down in Houston, and outside of work, passionate about inspiring and fostering the next generation of space innovators. Happy date of 2 future astronauts, we understand. Please welcome Bosco Lai. Good to meet you, Bosco.
Thanks, Bill, for mentioning the last part, because I know that same with you, Mikkel, my wife and the 2 kids are watching, maybe my 2 puppies too, so make sure it's all good. So again, very humbling to be here. This is amazing, and thank you, XPRIZE, thank you, Explorer Club. I am representing not just for Little Place Lab and Fire Foresight. I'm here to speak on behalf of all finalists and really all participants, the 300-odd companies that join XPRIZE because of our vision and what we want to do to change the world. So again, Fire Foresight is a team that we are in the event stage of the XPRIZE Wildfire competition. And it's a special team because it's not just one company. Underneath the Fire Foresight, we are a coalition of 4 companies, and I'll talk a little bit more about why and what each company does. But me specifically, I'm the co-founder and CEO of Little Place Labs. And what we do for the last 3.5 years of the life of the company is focusing on building what we call machine learning applications, data processing, AI on satellites, in order for us to get information back down from satellites very quickly instead of the hours or even days of latency today. So near real-time insights is what we do. So this story is really about collaboration, partnership. I think we resonate with a lot of words, a lot of those mentions in the previous speakers. So rewind back about 2.5 years ago or somewhere around that. I received an email. I was heads down just building Little Place Labs, right, looking at satellites, what satellites can do. And I got this email from an Australian called Rob Vernon. He sent an email to me and say, hey, saw that you got some cool stuff, real-time insights from satellites. Seems that we can do something together. Let's chat. So I go, okay, let's chat. I think maybe 4 or 5 days later, pick up the phone, right? Hey, mates, how are you doing? Great, awesome, right? Have you heard of XPRIZE? Say, yeah, we're tracking. What do you want to talk about? Well, we are tracking too, but we need more. We need more companies, more innovators, more folks like you guys to come in and join the game. And I go, okay, tell me more. And that was the spark that happened all the way from us seeing XPRIZE pushing out, a competition, a challenge, to us talking across the world and forming this team. So let me just go over who we are with a video. So I'm sure you all, if you were paying attention to the past, 38 seconds, you have seen not one type of assets or one layer of assets. We have seen satellites. You have seen drones. You have seen ground-based cameras, AI machine learning codes running in the background. We are all about multi-domain solution. So going back to the collaboration, right? Back in the days when we first started Little Place Labs, when we talk about real-time insights by doing data processing on satellites, we talk to wildfire community, and they go, oh, right, what about drones? Are you gonna take over the drones or whatnot? I say, absolutely not. We need to work with the drones. We need to work with the AI cameras. We also need to work with the balloons to make it happen. Because why? Every single asset layer, every single domain has their advantage and disadvantages. And we are all about integrating all these solutions and innovations together to make it work for the actual firefighters on ground, right? So how does it work today, right? In today's version of Fire Foresight, we have Little Place Labs. Again, we do data processing on satellites, so AI in space, right? Big words, to get near real-time insights over wide coverage. Once that happens, when we see, let's say, a plume of smoke or a location, there's something that is worth looking at, we automatically task the nearest drones or the nearest cameras to take a closer look. So drones, amazing, right? Because they can be deployed, they can actually hover over, and they can actually look at, with a closer look on what's actually happening. And AI cameras also have the advantage and also disadvantage. So we are all about bringing in different types of innovation and solution across multi-domain and be that centerpiece where we can dissect the information and the data that we're collecting across multi-domain and provide that critical information along the way, for the firefighters on ground. So before I go into that, a little bit about our XPRIZE experience, right? So again, XPRIZE obviously is a competition. There is a big dollar amount there. I think the first time I clicked on the XPRIZE and I saw the wildfire, I go, $11 million. Wow, okay. But XPRIZE is not just about the prize money. Like, don't get me wrong. If we win it, we will be celebrating like crazy, right? But it's really about giving us a voice, right? Small company, young company, a group of hungry, ambitious innovators. I think XPRIZE, today, right? I'm speaking to you all, first time here. It's really giving a voice and giving us that platform to really share with the world of what we want to do. I remember last year there was a XPRIZE Wildfire Summit held in Salt Lake City. And it was a really fantastic few days where we get to connect with stakeholders, right? The subject matter expert within the wildfire community, responders, and also most importantly, fellow challengers, right? We share so much ideas, struggles, success, and drinks over those few days. It was amazing, right? This is a humanity level problem, right? Making money for a company is important, especially important for a young startup. But this humanity level problem really needs everyone in the room to openly share, openly collaborate. The other thing that about XPRIZE, I think, earlier Andrea touched on that, right? The requirement is, I don't think I've seen another challenge that is like 4 year long, right? So what does it mean? It means that we have to be committed. As a participant, we need to really commit, not just for the 3 months, submit a white paper. We have to go in for 4 years, right? To really make it happen. From a concept to building team to doing a demo in a few months' time. So here I'm sharing with you a successful demo, preamp, I guess, with what we are going to head into the next stage of XPRIZE. So we've set a few fires in a test area, and we have used AI cameras to immediately detect where the fires are, identify the location, and once we've got the location, we immediately use that to feed into the drones. So we have a collection of drones around the area, and the nearest drones got deployed automatically without human in the loop, all the way to the area and push out the fire. So we have also multiple types of drone in that fleet. Some of them are for validation, and some of them are for actually pushing it out. So this was a successful demonstration that we've done about a few weeks ago, and we'll continue to enhance this, inject new data sources, including, again, satellites and other assets, to make this faster, more accurate, and useful to bring this to the right hands. Now, lastly, right, these are some really happy moments, right? That's the Aussie in the middle. We are eating wings in, I think in LA, yeah, that's right. Humanity challenge is challenging. It's painful, but it's also an opportunity to bring people together. This is a perfect example. It's not just about bringing 4 companies together, 4 CEOs together, 4 solutions together, 4 domains together. It brings us together. So XPRIZE and Fire Foresight had allowed me and my fellows within the team to go to places, to talk to interesting people, and this will continue on. Lastly, I'll close with this. It's a call to action. Just like the previous session, if you guys have been there, it's about Jaguars, right? And I was very, very touched by the speaker, Chris Tompkins. She said that whatever she has been doing for the 25 years, or the last 30 years, 25 years, and whatever she's gonna do to make this happen is gonna be beyond her lifetime. It is about the kids. It's about the grandkids. I got 2 kids, right? So these type of problems, I see it as beyond our lifetime. But we have to do it. Someone has to do it. Even if you're not living right next to the fire-prone zone, you got to think about it. So a call to action here. If I'm sure like you're here because you're interested about wildfires, or you have some role to play in this whole challenge or this humanity level problem. Please come talk to us, come talk to fellow startups, companies, ecosystem partners to share what you need help on. Where are your challenges? How can we help you to do your job better? How can we help you fulfill your mission? Now, if you're here and you have nothing to do with wildfire, right? Still, take away the big numbers, right? There's a lot of big numbers, and these are really important facts. Share it with your kids, share it with your friends, share it with your parents over dinner. Awareness is important. The fact that you're all here, we have taken away something. We have learned more about the dire urgency of this problem. So thank you, and what do we say? Back to the studio? Back to you. All right.
Great job. Why don't you have a seat here right away? Why don't we move our panel up to the Q&A portion? Guys, if you want to sit kind of in the order you were there. And I will, do we have enough seats? Yeah, I'll lead from up here. Mikkel, this is yours.
Oh, thank you.
Even if we're out of order here. But man, so cool. And I appreciate that call to action, Bosco, that turning anxiety into action, the opportunity to collaborate. That is the antidote to division these days. But let me start with Mikkel, just to bring back in Sceye and this amazing platform, high altitude platform, HAPS. We got to get used to that as the new.
Yeah, it doesn't roll off the tongue.
Doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, but the space agencies, NASA and ESA, came up with that, so we got to live with it.
You got to live with that. But this is something the space agencies have been trying to crack and failed at. So your big breakthrough in this is to have this thing hover, as you say, in such interesting ways to measure LiDAR beneath the ground and so forth. Was that a material science breakthrough? And how soon do you see this actually being deployed into communities?
Yeah, so I think that two breakthroughs, and it's correct. I've been able to identify about $12 billion, a little bit more than that the U.S. government has spent on trying to build the Stratospheric platform, because being station keeping below orbital altitude is by so many seen as the holy grail of aviation. We did it for a little over $250 million. And so I think there's both a financial and a material science reason. And the material science reason essentially has to do with a timeline. The government spent a lot of that money on the usual Beltway bandits, Northrop and Lockheed and Raytheon and so on. In the late 90s and early 2000s in large government programs. When we started in 2014, we had materials available that they didn't. Most notably, probably graphene, which was discovered in 2004 and has helped us tremendously with closing the power loop in the stratosphere, the ability to fly through both day and night. Because we could make batteries more energy dense, because we could make hull fabric stronger and lighter, and where we are going, performance relative to weight is everything. And the other reason is financial. I've been fortunate enough to have a little success with other companies, and you know one of them, Livestraw, and I'm very grateful for your support. And I invested the first $100 million into this company, and then we raised another 150 primarily from 3 multinational telecommunications companies, and telecommunications has been the massive driver in this race to the stratosphere, primarily because LEO satellites are showing that LEO constellations are not as scalable as originally thought, and that there is a direct line between the altitude your antenna is hanging in, a tower, the stratosphere, and space, and the population density you can serve. So there's no constellations out there today, nor would all of them combined, when they're all fully built out, be able to do anything other than a little dent in the global demand for connectivity. And so that's the driver in the race to the stratosphere. And in the process, we've seen how we lend ourselves incredibly well to Earth observation, to just stand and stare and see things unfold in real time in a way that nothing else can.
And let's bring Chief Fetterman into this. what would be the vision? Let's just take a fire, how the HAPS system would work, how it would get to him. Mikkel, would this be something, one of these could cover all of California, just LA County? Like, give us a sense of scale and how this tool can affect an incident commander.
I mean, the most cost-effective way to do that would be that prior to wildfire season, we would LiDAR map the state and say, here's where it's most likely to start, here's where it will travel when it starts, and so here's where we should all pre-position. You'll pre-position the ground assets, I'll pre-position air assets, and we'll work together. That's how it should ideally.
Chief, talk about that as an advance in your job and what that would mean.
There's a very large hangar right down the street from my office. I'd love to get your HAPS in it. Certainly the...
Is that the tungsten hangar you're close to? Or?
Is the former El Toro Air Base hangar.
Yep, yeah.
Right down the street. We could talk. So the reality is, the operational reality is that we need the information. We need real-time information, and we need to bring it into our common operational picture. And it's more of like a suite of applications now. It's not just one application. Think about your phone and how you do your normal day business. So we use, for example, we use Tablet Command, and that brings in all of our different information into one area. And we use other sources of information. But as I mentioned, the detection strategy, which means not just one thing, really the first person that tells us where the fire's at wins. We'll take it from any way. We'll take it on a napkin. We'll take it on a phone call. You tell us how the fire's starting, and we will launch just a massive armada of resources. Like I said, fixed wing, rotary wing. I don't think people really understand the scale of resources that our agencies are deploying to these events. So we are really excited about what the HAPS brings, and frankly, because it can do it for pennies on the dollar. But we're certainly taking satellite information, and we certainly work really closely with Earth Fire Alliance, and we're excited about what they're doing. And what I have been saying to the technology ecosystem is all of these technologies are complementary. They complement each other, and ultimately, so we can move faster, deploy resources, or pre-deploy resources faster and be more effective.
Right. Let me ask about from the XPRIZE. I was going to say X Games, different competition. You could combine them. Adventure sports, solving problems. You were telling me there's a number of finalists in these two tracks. Every time I'm covering a fire, bless their hearts, I get submissions from concerned viewers who say, I've invented this thing as a way to fight wildfires. It's a robot, and it'll do prescriptive burns and all this sorts of thing. But this is really focused on space and then drones as the actual firefighting apparatus. Is that where the finalists have sort of shaken out?
Well, XPRIZE is solution agnostic. So we don't tell the teams how to identify or how to solve the problem. We tell them, we want you to solve the problem. So those winning team statements that we had up earlier, one track is satellite. So we're asking teams they have 1 minute to observe a vast area, what a satellite can observe, and then 10 minutes to be able to deliver that information with the fewest false positives to the firefighters on the ground, because Kevin needs that information about what's happening with that fire right then and there. Right. So that's one track. And for that, we have 10 finalists. For the other track, it's autonomous wildfire response, and the teams have to find a fire, navigate to a fire, and suppress a fire fully autonomously. So you got to see the system that Fire Foresight had. What may not be completely known is that there were no hands involved. That was the system and the technology finding it, determining, verifying it, and then sending a message to the next system, which then autonomously deployed. So for that track, we have 13 finalists or semi-finalists that are testing. So Fire Foresight has tested, and our team is traveling around the world to see each one of those demonstrate their technology. Both tracks go to finals in 2026, where they will have live fire, and they have to show us what they can do. Validation's a huge part of XPRIZE. It's one of the most important parts. I talked about not being just a paper submission. We want the fire agencies to see this, to be able to trust in it, and know that here is a demonstration, and you can see how different teams will be able to solve that problem in their own way.
And as you were telling me, some XPRIZEs don't get one. That, you know, it's not an automatic. You're not going to give it as a consolation if somebody comes close. You want to see that this can be done.
Exactly right. It's a really audacious goal. You've heard about the challenges for satellite, the challenges for drones, sensors, high altitude platforms. It's not easy. And we're asking teams to do so much so fast. And so while I'm really, really hopeful, you know, it is TBD when we have finals.
Ryan, what is you know, as a geographer, what are the trends that you talk about at the water cooler as you think about what's happening both in the planet and in your space and technology and helping us understand it and map that future that you talked about?
Well, I think from my perspective, I think about two things in the context of XPRIZE. One is context of all that information. You know, when the chief says he doesn't care how he gets it, he wants to know about it, right? Which is what he's really trying to get at. It's not that the fire is just there, but tell me more about it so I can make that decision. So to me, geography is all about context. I showed a little bit of this, like who and what and how those things interact. Tell them a lot. It's more than just there's a hot spot, but tell me why that hot spot is so critical and what I should do about it. And geography is a way to unify and integrate information about everything around that community to help them make that decision. So we're really thinking, number one, in talking about how to provide the best context possible for what that alert that comes in indicates. And the second part is they have big thumbs. Like firefighters have real big thumbs. Like, they like to break things. And so the other thing we're talking about with XPRIZE is like, how do we get this great emerging technology, this innovation that's happening into practical applications that can deliver utility for firefighters on the front line, working in the field where they like to break things a lot. And so that requires great communication from HAPS and other tools. It requires great AI that breaks down the really complex data science things into digestible information, and it puts it in the context of a map that says, Chief, take action or move an asset here. So when we think about water cooler, every single part of that chain is really complex and really hard to do. And so we're always looking at ways to try to improve that process. So the partnership is really working with the teams, helping figure out how the chief can give us feedback. And at the end of the day, if XPRIZE is successful, right, we have tools that now detect, put it in context, and get it to those people immediately to act on.
Yeah. And finally, Bosco, you not only, it's looked like you're testing this, but are you actively working in Australia with your ideas?
Yeah, absolutely. So just to mention, right, we have 4 companies under Fire Foresight. 2 of them is from Australia, Tasmania. Another one is from Hong Kong. So we got Andrea here. So please have a chat with him to learn more about robotic cats, and then Little Place Labs in the US. Again, when I talk about collaboration and look across collaboration, from a technology or tech stack angle, the other important bit we just talked about, right? California is no longer just like wildfire is not just about California or the U.S. Like it's truly burning everywhere. We may not see it as frequently on the news, but it is indeed burning everywhere. So by forming the team across different components across the tech stack, but also from innovators and companies from different parts of the world, really is going to help us see, from a different vantage point, I guess, right? Yes, wildfire is the problem, but wildfire, it's a different problem, a little bit slightly different. If you look at different geographical regions, like procurement, who is responsible for what, the whole ecosystem, right? So it's not just about technology that is the the single piece on the challenge. So right now we already are deploying our products and services in Australia. I think some example is like we have helped detect a bushfire and contain the bushfire of about 20,000 square kilometer. We have done some work in Uruguay and also in some parts of LA in terms of counties. So absolutely have our eyes on collaboration across the tech stack and collaboration across countries and nations so that we can really look at this from a global point of view.
I love that you say this is a humanity-sized problem. And it's good to meet you humans in the middle of it. A big hand for these folks. We'll send them back to their seats. And let me bring back up we'll bring back up the CEO who started us off here. She, of course, is an amazing member of the Explorers Club for good reason. The first female private space explorer, first Muslim woman in space. She is a global presence in future positive tech markets, resonant voice for women within STEM, business and the entrepreneurial industries. She and her family sponsored XPRIZE's first venture in 1994, the $10 million Ansari XPRIZE that ignited a new era for commercial space flight. She began serving on board of directors, became CEO of XPRIZE in 2018, leading and scaling the foundation to its highest impact period in history. To date, XPRIZE has launched 30 prizes, offering over $500 million in prize purses, hosting over 35,000 innovators from around the world to participate in competitions. Talk about turning anxiety into action at scale. Please, big hand for Anousheh and Ansari.
Thank you. They need a smaller podium for short people. Actually, can you turn on the lights? I don't have slides, so I love to see the audience. I'm an explorer, and nature is my sanctuary. Whenever I want to get calm from all the chaos and craziness of the world, I go for a hike, and that's where I find my peace. But my sanctuary is under threat by many, many problems that's facing us. And that's why I'm at XPRIZE. That's why I accepted to be the CEO and to do the hard work we're doing at XPRIZE and scale what we're doing. I had the privilege of being able to see our beautiful world from orbit. I spent 11 days on space station. And I have to admit, I spent a lot of my time, especially at night when everyone else was sleeping, just gazing at the beautiful blue globe we call home. At times, I could see fires, volcano eruptions, storms, and I was in a very safe cocoon up there in the space station, and it was like a show that I was watching. And then I had to remind myself that what I'm watching is actually chaos on the ground, and people are experiencing these events and being impacted by it. XPRIZE is a competition, as you know, but it's not just any competition. We're very unique in what we do. You have Nobel Prizes where you award people for their past accomplishment, and you have a lot of competitions out there today, prizes out there today that reward ideas. We don't reward either. We're all about setting very clear, measurable objectives and then inviting the world to come and build a solution, demonstrate to us that they've achieved those targets and goals, and then we write them big checks. That's as simple as it gets. However, I couldn't have asked for a better person to be representing the wildfire team than Bosco, because he exemplifies what we activate in the world. We have competitions, but truly we like to call them co-opetitions, because we don't reward one team. We don't believe one solution solves it all. We want to create cohorts. And a lot of these cohorts actually, even though they're competing for the prize, they're there because not just the money, but because they're passionate about solving the problem. And because of that, they work together, they collaborate. And we have many examples of collaboration between different parts of the technology across the globe. We're a global organization, and we love to activate innovators across the globe. We're all about building an ecosystem. Solutions don't get implemented and won't have their impact just by an innovator creating a product. There has to be a way to get those products into the market. That's why from the beginning of our prizes, which are usually between 3 to 4 years long, we actually activate a community, an ecosystem around those innovators. We shine the light on their work. We put them on podiums and stages so people can hear about their amazing work, and to be there to support them once their solutions is available to the market. The 4 years is to get them ready for the market. And our judges and our advisors help them get there. And rigorously testing them will give them the credibility they need in the marketplace So those customers, those potential collaborators actually will engage with them once they're ready. We're all about clear and measurable action. This week, I've been around, like many of you, to a lot of group discussions, to a lot of talks and presentations, mostly highlighting how bad the situation is, how everything's falling apart. Not only we're not advancing towards solution, we're actually, going backward. It was depressing. I mean, lots of scientific data, lots of reports published to tell us what we already know. But none of them is inspiring action. Something's wrong. We've been talking about all of these activities. We're at COP30 this year. And we talk about the problems. But how are we going to get people across the globe to collaborate and actually bring solutions to the market and really solve these problems? Nothing I've seen so far is doing what we're doing. We are actually bringing solutions together to solve these problems. Not every problem is an XPRIZE problem. I cannot solve democracy with a prize. I wish I could. But there are some that we can, especially those problems that are complex, problems that require collaboration, problems that somehow the market forces are not solving. And that's where XPRIZE shines. And by bringing those clear targets, we activate and inspire innovators and different communities to come together. Wildfires are not a distant threat. They are already impacting communities, ecosystem, and economies around the globe, as you heard from all of our speakers tonight. But I have a dream. I shared that with some of you earlier tonight. I have a dream that maybe a year or two after the competition is over, and a lot of our competitions, even competitors, even those who won't win the competition, they are going to continue on, and we're going to continue to support them because we believe in the cohort. It's not about just the winning team. They get the money, but the rest of the teams will continue because they believe in these solutions, and we'll support them. And about a year or two after this prize, I hope to see a report that says that we did not experience any destructive wildfires in the world because those teams were on the ground, collaborating together, collaborating with the resources on the ground, and making sure the destructive fires don't destroy our worlds and communities. I'm extremely proud of the work we've done so far, and you heard our teams highlight them. And I know that our work is not done. Actually, in a cruel but familiar event, as a result of the catastrophic wildfires in California, one of our original funders of the competition lost both of his homes in California. And of course, this is a danger that he was really aware of. That's why he was supporting our competition. But of course, we knew that he can't fulfill his commitment to us, and we wanted to support him in any way we can. So we are asking for additional support for this competition. So any of you who can help provide us with financial support or in-kind support. We are still in the final testing phases, and we need a lot of resources to successfully complete this testing. So if you are in a group that can support us, please talk to Andrea, talk to our team here. I'd like to actually ask our XPRIZE teams to stand up. We have a few in the room. If you don't get to talk to me, you have Susan, Sly, Andrew, and you met Andrea. Please reach out to one of us and ask us how you can help us in successfully completing our competition. And the competition doesn't end there, so we're looking for partners as we go into our impact phase. And the impact phase is a post-prize event where we really work with our cohorts of teams who have really made it to the final stages of the competition and bring them resources like investors, connect them with customers, help them with manufacturing, help them with any resources they need in order to become successful, thriving companies in the world. So if you want to support those teams, again, talk to us, talk to any one of the teams members who are here and help us get there. I am really humbled by everyone in this room, especially the teams, especially the people who are every day dedicating their lives to put an end to these destructive fires. And I thank you again for spending the evening with us and learning more about XPRIZE and our work. Thank you.
And that concludes the program, everybody. I hope you'll stay for the reception and get to know each other. But once again, thanks to an amazing panel. I learned so much. Have a great week.
And if you have time tomorrow, we're doing this all over again. Check out our programs. We still have tickets for tomorrow.